Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Apollo's Odyssey. Last week I did a show in the studio, but I was realizing I need to put more soundproofing up. People were complaining about the echo, so doing it here tonight at my set at home. And I am excited to bring on this guest, Bobby Rodrigo. He's done a lot of work for different charities over the past years, and I'll get into that in a minute with him. But before I get into that, I want to show you what I have up on my store because with this new studio, like I've been saying in all my past episodes, I am actually looking forward to doing more like well thought out type videos with like teleprompter and edited and all that, and that takes some funding to get it all going. So if you would like to help me out instead of just donating, feel free to purchase my art. I have a lot up on my site right now. I do not have spears up right now. And by the way, my site is shamanspears.com. It's on the ticker across the bottom here, www.shamanspears.com. I have two spears up actually right now. One is signed by Tucker Carlson. The other is charged by the founder of Quantum Touch, Richard Gordon. And my new collection is in the works. But in the meantime, I have all these amazing orgonite art I've been creating. Two orgonite brass knuckles left up on the site. They're pretty cool in case you really want to align someone's chakras. And then I have these really sweet initiation key necklaces that are filled with ground crushed fluorite and moldavite, which is literally from a crashed alien spaceship, or people say it was like a meteor, but other people say it was a crashed spaceship from the Czech Republic. So make sure you check those out. I think it's really cool with initiation keys idea that is like basically in a lot of my interviews, it almost seems like we kind of have these keys like in each other and we unlock each other. So I really like the idea of initiation keys. I've been obsessed with it lately. And on my site right now, I have tons of them. They are $44.44, not $4,444 like some people thought. Only $44.44. Just letting you know. Also, I have these really sweet orgonite dagger necklaces. They're very awesome as well. And those are usually filled with quartz and black tourmaline. Also, I have these really sweet orgonite pyramids I've been creating. I have some of these left. So make sure you go check those out. And the new shaman spears are in the making. All right, so let's bring Bobby on here. Bobby, long time no see.
How you doing, Paula? It's always great to see you. Always great to hang out with you.
It's always great to see you as well. So can you give the audience a little introduction on who you are and like what you're about? I know the last time we met was at the conference in the Blockchain World Conference in Atlanta, right?
Yes, that's right. You guys performed. I asked
that was so fun.
It was great. It was great. I asked you guys to come, and that is part of my work, advocacy. I'm a cryptocurrency blockchain advocate, more from the advocate side and the empowerment side. I want everybody to be empowered. That's one of the basis of everything that I do. And yeah, that is the last time we said, fucking pandemic. Anyway,
seriously,
really, not that you and I have been worried too much about it from the sense of doing things, but it does interfere when you want to go hang out.
Yeah.
You can't do the hangout thing.
Conferences haven't really been a thing, and that's usually where we end up meeting up is conferences. So.
Well, it's true, because actually it's funny you said that, because when the pandemic started, I had talked to Casey and I wanted you guys to come and perform at the South by Southwest conference, which is what was my next participation thing that was going on. We were doing 2.5 days at the hotel right across the street as a side event, plus doing stuff inside. We were going to have our own artists, and of course, that the event never went on, so that was kind of shut down. But that was supposed to be the next time we were going to all see each other. And by the way, before we get into me, I want to let everybody know I have a shaman. I don't know what the hell that Tucker Carlson shit is, but I have a shaman spear. I have had one for, it's got to be at least 3 years now, I have to say, right? I think that I thought I had
Yeah.
it. I have it with me. I don't have it in my apartment, but I do have it with me. I take it everywhere. So, and I have also gifted other ones, as you know, to other close friends that I thought. So that's the real deal, everybody. So anyway,
Yeah, they've been selling me like hotcakes lately. It's like
mhm.
literally now that I have this show, every time I make a collection, they all just fly
well,
away. So
well, the thing you did for me that was so special was you made a custom based upon some of the things that spiritually that are close to me, and then as well as the other people. I was trying to do. We're both very spiritual people, and you understood where I was coming from there. So that was always very cool, and I keep them with me without a doubt. But to answer your question, it's for me, it's always been about, and when I mention empowerment, it's always about reacting to the communities. I've been doing responses to disaster reliefs, for example, for many, many years. And most of the things that I do overlap, like you mentioned the blockchain. So that overlaps with We Do Better, which overlaps with cannabis advocacy, so there's always a piece of it that stays together because I want the community to be empowered. And as you know, I'm a liberty person. My radio show is called "I Take Liberty with My Coffee." And we have worked together and connected. Like when I first met Casey, for example, the Siren, which is the colleague that Apollo performs with for many years. We met over the NDAA and the indefinite detention provision of the NDAA, and his appearance on Abby Martin, and then we appeared on Abby Martin, and we met that way. And then after that, we met at the Free and Equal concert event in Los Angeles, where essentially Casey and Eleanor Goldfield and myself kind of rescued the event. And we don't need to get into that, but it was empowering because there was so many great people there, and everybody came together to make sure it worked right. So I stay close to my personal advocacies, and in the last year, we've been doing one of the things that we've been trying to do for many years is to change the way that food is prepared and available to people in distress, making it more culturally relevant, making it higher nutritional value, and connecting it to the local food supply chains, no matter where the situation is. And the pandemic, we were already doing, when I say we, me and my colleagues, Jeffrey Moore from Food Fleet, Justin Zollner from The Wave, myself, We Do Better Relief, Walk for Change, Joe Grumbine, my co-founder of Walk for Change, for example. So we're all working on supporting the local food supply chain, because big agriculture is really hurting our society, especially in a crisis. And when
yeah,
everything shut,
I heard. I don't know if this is correct, but from what I've heard, the farmers weren't actually allowed to work this year on the farms as much because of COVID, which doesn't make
well,
sense to
so
me.
farming. So farmers have been paid not to farm for many years. That it's a government position that makes zero sense to me for a lot of reasons. They pay them not to farm, and this is big agriculture more than anything else. But most farming, and particularly local farmers, in order to survive, they have to keep working. The problem has been when everything shut down, particularly the first 3 months, who are they going to sell anything to? So they wound up having all this surplus. Now, in the meantime, people had to eat. So one of the first things that we did back at the very beginning was to put food trucks at locations where first responders and nurses and doctors needed to eat in order to take care of people, because there weren't hospital cafeterias. There wasn't anything open. And
Wow.
so when they talked about these other parts where they don't have enough masks, they don't have enough PPE, all of that was real. But I'm like, well, who the hell's going to feed these people? And my colleague, where are they getting the food from? So we reacted. That was the initial way we reacted. But when I came up to the Northwest, and I'm in the Pacific Northwest, the whole premise was we had philanthropy paid fishermen in Alaska to fish, and then process the fish, lingcod and sablefish. And then they brought it to the port of Seattle, 40,000 pounds of fish.
Wow.
in 1 pound fillets. Yeah, it was amazing. So we used that to create boxes of food that was culturally relevant, higher in protein, and that the USDA wouldn't touch because USDA doesn't wouldn't put this fish in a box because that's the USDA. We have rules that we have to follow. Anyway, so the idea was to number one, support the local food supply chain, which the Alaska fisheries, from the standpoint of fishermen, from the standpoint of Pacific Northwest, is supporting the local food supply chain. And then buying food from the local farmers and then paying local food handlers who are out of work because all the restaurants are closed, all the arenas are closed, all the convention centers are closed. Nothing was work. Nothing was. No, the schools are closed. Everything, anywhere that you serve food is closed. So we would try and hire the workers who are food handlers, have them make the boxes, and then we would give them to the community as a charity thing. That's how this all started. And we started focusing on really distressed communities, particularly the Native Americans in the entire region who got blasted heavier than COVID and pretty much every other community from the standpoint. And they're always in distress anyway from the standpoint of lack of health care and being isolated in remote areas. Fort McDermott, for example, is on the Oregon-Nevada border. They travel 70 miles just to get to a supermarket, to give you an example. And then, of course, when they go to the supermarket, it's closed, right? So we use these dynamics to feed people, and so I was asked as an experienced logistics person, on the ground relief person, to come here and help develop that end of it. Where are we going? How are we going to do it? Where are we going to put the food? Who are we serving and stuff like that? While the rest of the team developed the food supply chain that we needed and went after the money and went after the grants and stuff like that. And we immediately started serving people all over the place. And when we were able to do our box program, we started doing about 1,500 families a week, besides the other things that we were already doing. So that's kind of the nutshell of what's happening now.
I'm curious to know, well, first of all, what organizations you have worked with, but maybe we'll get into that in a minute. First, I'm curious to know if you have any wild stories from these disaster relief things that you have been a part of. Like, have you been in the middle of crazy disasters, like when they were happening, or have you experienced anything crazy? Like to hear some stories about that.
So yeah, many times. As my life flashes before me. Yeah, so crazy. Going back, so one of the disaster reliefs that I have my footprint on is the three-headed monster we had in 2017, Harvey, Irma, and Maria. Harvey in Texas, Irma in Florida and the Caribbean, and then Maria in the Caribbean, but mainly Puerto Rico. So when Harvey happened, we had just launched We Do Better. Dan Johnson, myself, and Jeff Lewis, the co-founders of We Do Better, we started with the Tax Revolution Institute, and we were developing a tax position. We wanted to learn, we wanted to see what's going on. We Do Better is a tax position, and essentially our position of We Do Better is that we the people deliver public benefits better to the community than the government does. And we proved it by data. So the idea is to create a tax structure based upon that premise. So we just had launched it, and here come the three-headed monster. So I left to go to Texas for Harvey. I'm a logistics expert, relief expert, along with plenty of other people, and I drove trucks and manpower out to Texas. And one of the things that happened in Port Arthur was, as we're trying to help, and I'm working with organizations like the Cajun Navy, the Cajun Army. There was a nurses group that had come down from up this region, actually. So we all combined together to pull our resources and respond. So we get to Port Arthur, and we got boats in the water. It's flooding everywhere. Just picture your city as in the middle of a lake, whatever city it is. And we've got boats in the water. We're rescuing people literally off the second floor, roofs, all that stuff. And FEMA comes along and throws us out of the water. Pretty much gunpoint force, all that. Yeah. So you guys got to leave, and of course we don't want to. We're not going to get into a gunfight with FEMA, the whole deal, And so they chased us out of the water. So the interesting part about this, to get to the crazy part, was 4 days later, the United States Coast Guard starts contacting all of us nonprofits that they know are out there. And they ask us to come help them with waterborne recovery in Port Arthur. Waterborne recovery is pulling dead bodies out of the water. That's what that means. So they're asking us to go to the area that FEMA just chased us out of, where we were rescuing people, and we're pulling dead bodies out of the water in the same area. Now, we can only guess whether or not we would have saved any of these people who are now dead, but all of that doesn't make much sense now, does it? So that's a crazy story for you.
Wow. So I don't know if it was from you at the time, but I was hearing volunteers could actually go down there and like get on jet skis and go around on jet skis, like rescuing.
Oh yeah, so
I wanted to go down and be a part of that. I was like, dude, that sounds like awesome.
Well, one of the interesting things when I literally first crossed the border, as soon as you cross the border from Texas from Louisiana, you were in a flood zone, literally.
Wow.
And the first thing I saw, and I'll never forget it, and I filmed, you know me, I film everything. I have videos for days on all of this. And first thing I saw was a airboat store sitting there with the airboats right there. I'm like, why are they sitting there? Why don't they have the airboats in the water helping people? But of course, there's plenty. The Cajun Navy is an amazing organization. They respond and they put boats in the water. And I have some really good stories, wild stories around that. They respond really well, and plenty of people do. There's no question. And yes, you could do jet skis and airboats and boats because everything was flooded from Corpus Christi to Magnolia, Texas, where my command center was. There was flooding in cities all across the board, all over the place. Second-story apartment buildings in downtown Houston. The water was up that high. I have film of all of that, the destruction of that property, for example. It was in pockets. It was heavy, and then they opened up the dam. What the hell city was that? Conroy, I think. They opened up the dam in the area, and they flooded out an entire, of course, black and brown people. They love doing that. But they flooded a whole area of a Latin community to move the water around because they were getting hammered. And the thing about these storms that are always interesting that people forget, that are supposed to know better, like the government, is it rains, it storms, there's 100-mile-an-hour winds, but then when it all stops, here comes the floods. That's when the water moves, and that's when it gets serious, and the wind stopped, we're good. No, we're not. Here comes the water, and that's when it really gets serious. So Harvey was, and it's interesting, people in Texas know how bad Harvey was. A lot of people don't because, it's a continental United States, and it wasn't I don't know, advertised like Florida was when they get hit, or Louisiana, but it was really, really bad. The flooding was insane. A lot of the destruction, and they dealt with it. The community came together. That was pretty much, that's always my focus. I tell the stories, but I don't waste time in the negative. I pretty much focus on how the communities are helping each other, because the negative does not help at all. Complaining, bitching, and all that stuff. Save that for later, after the fact, to see if we can fix what they messed up. But during the event, I stay positive all the time. It doesn't do any good to do anything else.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about being involved with the Free and Equal Elections Committee, is like the whole idea of giving back to the community. I had Christina Tobin on here about a couple months ago, and I'm actually going to be at the Free and Equal Elections event in Cambria in July, so I'm really excited about that. Good. But I really feel during this time, especially with what's been going on in the world lately, giving back to the community is definitely of utmost importance. And for me, I had this event in my life where charity became very important to me, because my younger brother actually almost died of rare liver disease, or he was born with a rare liver disease, and my mom had to give him half of her liver. So it was like this crazy thing. This happened when I was in second grade, and he was 2 years old. And so they actually, my mom's side of the surgery was considered like a boob job, like it was like cosmetic, you know. So like the insurance didn't cover it, so it was like $500,000, and the community really came together to like help us out, help me and my family out, and they actually ended up having like I think like 8 fundraisers by the end of it to like basically pay for the whole surgery to happen. And that to me, like when I experienced that growing up, it really kind of like showed me how important it was to give back to the community. So, you know, I was always really involved in like charity projects with my youth group growing up. And, you know, it really feels great. It feels so good to be able to give back. And I always encourage people to do this on the show. I like having people on like you that actually, you know, do this for a living and do a lot of work with it. So like for people that want to be involved in different ways, do you have any like things you could say, like any ideas, like any sort of organizations that you would recommend people to be involved with? And what organizations have you been involved with in particular lately?
So yeah, you know, so the way to get involved, it's easy and it's complicated at the same time. You know, of course, there has to be desire. And one of the things that I always say is if you give 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 years, it all is the same. You should never complain about people who don't have more time. You should respect every effort that's in there because people are trying to do what they are capable of doing. And the amount of time that you dedicate to that is important. I don't care how little. A lot of people beat themselves up in the charity world when they don't think they're doing enough because they see somebody else doing this. I had a conversation this morning. Oh yeah, no. Listen, it doesn't matter how much I'm doing. It matters that you're doing. Everybody's. No one can do it alone. You know, and every piece of the puzzle works. You know, my organization is called We Do Better Relief. The Wave Foundation is amazing up in Portland. The Human Solution International, which is an advocacy group that helps and trying to end prohibition and also works on reentry programs for prisoners that come out, nonviolent prisoners and cannabis POWs, as we call them, who have been incarcerated for that. That's a big deal. Any kind of farming, urban farming aspect, you know, food is very empowering, and everybody should grow food. Everybody should grow food in some way, shape, or form. You know, the one of the biggest things that go on in our society is that our food travels 1,500 miles on the average to reach us, which is ludicrous.
Wow.
Yeah. So grow tomatoes in the backyard. Save on the tomatoes from the store, and it's real and it's yours. All of those things and all those farming things. Like I'm going down to Texas in June, and there's a place called the Texas Music Ranch. This is another place somebody could go do. And the ranch is set up as a farming community to help distressed artists. The idea is for people who are trying to do art, and of course it's a struggle. You're an artist, you know that the artist life can be a struggle in so many ways. So this community is set up so they have food and they have a place to live and they can advance, and there's a stage and a sound system, and it's all done there. So we're going to do an event to promote that coming up soon, for example. The people can join those type of things all the time. The big organization, I'm distressed with, like the Red Cross. You know, if I was the CEO of the Red Cross, I would be getting paid millions of dollars a year. And that's a lot of money to make when you're feeding people ham sandwiches when they're in a crisis. You know, the levels go up, and that's a big deal to me. You know, and don't get me wrong, everybody does good that they do. But from a structural standpoint, it should be 80-20. So if you go to look for organizations, 20% of what they get in donations should be for their operations and administration. 80% of what they get should be going to their plan, whatever their community is, whatever the situation is. You know, homeless is a big deal in this country. I'm in a city, I'm in Portland right now.
Oof.
And I would be, and I know, and I've seen LA's, you know, I've seen LA's.
Yeah.
I don't think there's more homeless anywhere in the country than there is here.
You know, I went there recently a few months ago, and I could not believe how many, like the tent cities, like around the
everywhere,
bridges.
Right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
It was like worse than LA. I couldn't
It
believe
totally,
it.
it totally is. It totally is. And you know, when the crisis happened in 2000, when the crash happened in 2007, 2008, 2009, The city of Houston, for example, gave homeless people tickets, bus tickets, to come to Portland, because they treat them so much better here. Like you can come here and be homeless and get a tent. And of course, so the unemployment rates with the pandemic has expanded the homeless immensely, and the city is rotting. I drive down this one street, 33rd Avenue by Delta Park here, and it's I actually filmed it about 2 weeks ago because I need to let the world know what's going on when it comes to that. Just showing them, it's really bad, and you saw it. And one of the responses that the city did was how sports and events dictate how they behave. People are going to come from out of town. We don't want them to see anything, for example.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So if you, in certain parts of the city, when you drive by the freeway, you see all these big boulders underneath the overpasses and stuff. Well, they did that on purpose so the homeless wouldn't be there, so they wouldn't be seen close to the arenas and things like that. And yeah, and of course, these are areas that are covered. And this is the Northwest, that it rains such a high percentage of the time, and that was the response to it. It was done by the Oregon Department of Transportation along with the city, and
then there's all the riots that are happening there.
Protests
over the past year. Yeah.
Protests, not riots. Protests.
Protests.
Yeah, well, they just had one. They just had a one of the more serious ones on Saturday for May Day, one of the significant days. May Day has actually been protested in the Pacific Northwest, particularly Seattle, for many, many years. There was some years ago, there was a pretty significant one in May Day that happened, that there was a lot of typical interactions that wound up being negative. A lot of people got hurt, some people got killed, all that stuff. The one here the other day, Portland's interesting. I went to the first week I was here because I was like day 80 of they had over 100 days in a row of the protesting in front of the federal courthouse. I got here around day 80 in the park, and as you know, I've been on the ground in protests forever. The Nazis come to town, I bring my camera, say hi, what's happening? I got a good story about that too in Texas, not the Nazis, but a good story relative to that. But anyway, so I want to see what's going on, and mainstream media, this well. I was watching your reports when you were in DC. We're all about trying to show the truth, whatever it is, the truth, right? So I go rolling into Portland, and before we were set up to do it, I had like a week or two getting ready. So I go right to the thing, right front line. I do interviews, all that good stuff, videos, all that stuff. Stayed for the night. So the way it was happening was, so you had the park all day. They had this huge thing set up where they were feeding people for free, cooking right there and then. It was pretty significant. And then when the lights went down, here come the protests right there in front of the courthouse. So there's the park and the street and the courthouse, right there in front of the courthouse. And around 11 o'clock at night, the police would come out from the courthouse and shoot tear gas in because somebody would throw a ball of fire. And there was no Molotov cocktails. It was just, and I'm not downplaying it. A fire is going to make a reaction. That's what happens. You got fire, they're going to react. It's the thing. So, right? So they would throw a thing of fire, whatever, or they would knock down the fence. And one of the nights I was there, they got through the front door. All of that's going to get a response. They come out and do the thing. People disperse. They come back. They come out and do it again. They disperse. They come back. They come out and do it again. Everybody goes home. And I watched this for a week. And I was like, it was almost like it was a shiny new ball. Now, mind you, there was definitely some things that went on, both before when I was here and after that I verified. I know that's real and all that stuff. But when I was there, it was like, where's the? I mean, I've been to some serious stuff, and to me, this wasn't. It was almost like a game, and the part of it that bothered me was that there was no messaging point. The point of doing a protest is you want to make change, so you need to advocate the change that you're trying to make. You need to keep going, right? I mean, you need to get on just like we've done on all these other issues. You need to keep going. You need to stand. You don't go anywhere. Here's my issues. Here's our demands. Whatever it is. And then on the other side of that, I got real annoyed at the civil rights leaders that were on the news, who was saying bad things about the Portland protesters. And I was like, how the fuck do you know what they're doing? You're not there. You're in the news studio in Washington, D.C. Why don't your ass come out here and walk out and talk and lead and do whatever and or organize it? What are you doing? And so we just like, it's a circle jerk half the time. But the police violence has been serious. Like always. That's, to me, it's nothing new. I'm a little older, and all we have now is more cameras. And I remind everybody, remember the Rodney King cops got acquitted. So all of that stuff is matters, and we got to keep trying to change that part of it. The killing of people who are unarmed I'm over.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm over. It's like, I don't care what color you are. If you are unarmed, you should not be getting killed. It doesn't work like that. And they're doing it too much. That's really the thing. They're doing it too much. And I was watching a video from LA some time ago, and they were beating on the guy, beating on the guy, beating on the guy. And while they're beating on him, they're saying, stop resisting, because it's a way for them to get away with it. Because the person isn't resisting, but they're saying it as they're beating on them. And so they can say, well, look, he was resisting. I was asking him to stop resisting while I was hitting him. Well, now you're full of shit, basically, so. Anyway, so.
Yeah, I actually had a best friend's dad. I mean, this family, basically, I grew up with this family back in my hometown in Illinois, and it was two girls that were the same age as me and my sister, and, their parents. And one day, their parents had gone through a divorce, and their parents were like a second family to me. Like their dad was basically like a second dad to me. And this was just in a normal, like, suburban community. In the Midwest, like, people kind of like, they just like shoot guns in their backyards. So he had just gone through a divorce. The kids had moved, and their mom had moved to a different part of town, and he's just in his backyard shooting a fake deer, like, just blowing off some steam, like drinking some beers or something. And the police show up, and, he's like drunk. I mean, he was shooting guns, but he's just shooting a fake deer in the backyard. That's very normal for the Midwest. Right. And they surround the house, and he ends up, running inside, and they surround the house, call out the SWAT team. He was probably a little drunk, so I guess, he was freaked out because he was drunk. Mm-hmm. And they actually surround the house, go inside, and like corner him in his kitchen, and then shoot him like right in the middle of his kitchen. And I don't think he was even armed at that point. I don't think he had his gun with him. He was at his own house, So like, yeah, I mean, it was crazy. He actually ended up dying, and the cop that shot him, they actually went to trial for it. And the cop that shot him actually got, basically, he got put in prison for
like a manslaughter.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So
well, I've
experienced that definitely with something that really hit close to home.
And it happens way too much. So there was a case in Georgia. A bunch of us were involved in it. I actually worked on the forensics for when they sued the police. With Tom McCain, who is now the executive director of Peachtree Normal there, an ex-sheriff. So what happened was this guy stole a truck, and he was caught. And they found crystal meth on him when he was caught. So he told the police that the crystal meth was in the truck when he stole it. So the police went and did a no. So the police went and did a no-knock warrant on a house of a family, from somebody who didn't have any record or anything like that, local businessman. They did a no-knock warrant, which is technically unconstitutional in Georgia, specifically in the state constitution, on top of everything else. They do a no-knock warrant. They don't identify themselves. He comes out of his bedroom naked from being asleep with his gun in his hand, and they shoot him dead. Right there. Yeah. And so
wait, he's the one that owned the truck that was stolen?
Yes, that's correct. And that was the basis of that. Yes, and that was the basis of the no-knock warrant. So the response and it was in, what the hell town was that? Berlin, Georgia. And so we all went. We all went. I did a live broadcast in front. We all went. Everybody. Anybody who was an activist relative to the drug war, to liberty, see ya. And we went right down there. And so I got involved specifically. Well, that's when I met Tom McCain. Actually, he's a beautiful man. And we went through so I went through the damn forensics of the murder. That's how I consider it. And it was really illuminating what they did. And they literally just killed him. They destroyed him. And of course they settled and all that stuff. But the guy's dead, and beautiful family, daughter, son, the whole deal. Local businessman, right there in town, all his life, right there. And they're going to do that. And I we did the Walk for Change. We did a town hall, a couple of them last year. And one of them I had Neil Franklin as the keynote speaker. And Neil is with LEAP, which used to mean the Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and they changed it to politically PC. They changed it to the Law Enforcement Action Project or something like that. Anyway, so he did the keynote, and I have lots of friends in law enforcement, and everybody is the same when they have a brain. It's all about the training. They don't do any training. We get in there for 5 minutes, and they put them on the street, and here you go. I mean, in LA, at least they used to, the first 2 years that the LA Sheriff Department, in your LA Sheriff Department, before you hit the streets, you spend it at the LA County Jail. So your whole attitude with interacting with people out of the academy is after you go and work in this jail with 10,000 people in it. That's before you hit the street. I'm not sure how that computes to serve and protect, but what do I know? I don't know. It's a crazy world, without a doubt.
Wow.
But we're going to make it better. We're going to make it better. We got to be positive.
Definitely.
What other choice do we have, right? We got to be positive.
So, what exactly is the Walk for Change? What's that organization about?
So the Walk for Change is an action. We were going to walk across the country, starting in June. That's how they stopped us. They had to have a pandemic to stop us. We were going to start on June 20th, and we were going to go to Washington, D.C. We were going to go across the country in the north, in the center, and in the south. And we were going to meet in Washington. And the idea was, it was empowering human rights is our message, empowering human rights. It was really as much about freedom of choice as anything. Ending prohibition, farm to table, local food supply chain, blockchain, cryptocurrency, changing our infrastructure politically, similar to what Free and Equal. I've always believed in the Free and Equal platform. As you know, I totally love the platform of, I don't want to see letters next to people's names when I go into a voting booth. I want to just see their names. This right. Is what we have. I'm all about. I've always been about it. That it's a same thing with like the indefinite detention provision of the NDAA. Anything that involved empowering human rights and our protections, no matter what the issue is. And it wasn't about one group deciding. Like we have our co-founder, myself and Joe, for example, but we want people to bring their issues. And again, similar to other organizations as they overlap, I don't really care about your politics. I care about your issues, and I care about human rights. And I hate everybody in politics. I want nothing to do with parties, any party. I want people to do what they're supposed to do, and so the Walk for Change was set up like that. So we were launching at South by Southwest. We were going to do our first major launch there and to get ready for the walk. And of course, so then we postponed it to the beginning of this year, which of course didn't work. So right now it's kind of in queue to see where we're going to go. We were trying to do it before the election. That was relevant. That's why we were going to DC. And again, it wasn't to support a party or a person. It was to support a positions of, people's freedom of choice. So we didn't get to do it yet, but we still are there and we're still advocating. And then, of course, everything I do with We Do Better Relief, this is why we Walk for Change. Everything I do with The Wave, everything I do with Peacekeeper Society, which is another marvelous Native American nonprofit that I work with. I'm Native as well, so part Native. And so all of these organizations, I do a food distribution. This is why I walk for change. If we do something positive for the community, or we try to, this is why we walk for change. It all overlaps. When you do shaman spears, this is why. If I promote you, this is why we walk for change. It's all about people's freedom of choice and developing communities and empowering human rights. That's pretty much the message.
You said Native American communities have been hit harder than any other community due to COVID. What exactly did you mean by that earlier? Just like in regards to them not getting as much support out there? Do you mean that it like?
No, and actually they're getting more now. So the response now, fortunately for them, is that they're getting help better, like in the vaccination area that is so important to so many. For example, but their unemployment is insane anyway. And for example, I mentioned Fort McDermott, which is the Paiute Nation. They have 80% unemployment. 20% of their whole community had COVID. That's ridiculous. The Lummi up by Bellingham. So when we do distributions, we do them in different ways. I don't, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I don't care what the situation is. I'm going to go. If I got to wear a mask, I don't give a shit. I'm going to go. So I went to Lummi. They wouldn't let anybody in. They were on lockdown, the entire reservation. So we got to eat. So I brought them 12 pallets, 16,000 pounds of food up there. And I wore a mask. I did what they asked me to do. They want me to wear a mask. They want me to do it. I'm going to do it. I'll say whatever. But I can put the food on the ground in front of your store, and I can drive away.
That's what's interesting right now is it's like more needed than ever, and like all charity, like feeding the homeless, is something that's more needed than ever. But at the same time, people are getting kind of more open with things again now. But it seemed to me for a while it was like people were more scared to do the charity work for a while. And I'm a part of this group called Disclosure Fest here in LA. They do a lot to give back to the community in this area. Mm-hmm. And actually during a couple of months, we went down to Skid Row and actually drove around a U-Haul. And then I was like hanging out the back, like giving care packages, because they didn't want people to like line up and be in a line like closer together. Mm-hmm. So like our way of going around that was we like ran these U-Haul trucks. So we were just, someone would be driving, like I was like hanging out the back, and we were just kind of passing out everything, all the product we had like pre-packaged, ready to go. And we were just kind of passing it out as we were like kind of moving around Skid Row, and we just like drove around a few times, and it was pretty fun. But it's really sad at the same time, seeing all that, and how bad it is down there. Like at one point, the person that was running it, Adrian, he was telling me like only one package per person. And at one point, this lady is walking up to me, and she's like, please, can I have some more? And I was about to give her more, and they're like, no, only one package a person. And I'm like, why? We have so many. And then later, some people came out to me that like live down there, and they were like, yeah, people come down here and do this all the time. And then they'll just, they'll get like more than one of things, and then they'll just turn around and sell it for another hit. And I was like, oh my God, is that why? And I was just like,
I wouldn't have listened.
No. And then,
you know what I mean? Right.
I could see what they're saying, but then I go back around again another time, and the lady that asked me for more earlier, she's sitting there at a tent with two little babies, and she'd been trying to get this care package for these little kids. And I just felt so terrible. I was like, dude, I mean, I guess like I don't care if you're going to sell it for another hit. I mean, some people need it, so
exactly. So like when I was mentioning earlier, when we were feeding the first responders, they set up the trucks and they set up the tables, to keep the distance and things like that. The majority of the distributions that have been happening, even the one I was at today, I was in Centralia, Washington, at the Church of the Nazarene, and they did their first one today. And they had 336 boxes, which is essentially how many families they'll feed, whether they give one car, 5 boxes for 5 families, and you keep the data as much as you can. But most people are not going to be taking 5 boxes, 32 pounds apiece with 5 gallons of milk in it and keeping it for themselves because they can't. Nobody can, it just makes no sense. And community, the majority of the time, the stuff is going to get out to the people, especially when you're handing it to the people, and they're not going to be, every now and then you got somebody coming, oh, give me more because, they, whatever. That happens and I just don't care. Here, have some more, whatever. We have it, we can have it. And the way that this has been responded to, so I'll give you another really good group. They're called Feed the Mass here in Portland. And another one is called Free Fridge. And I'll tell you how the two of them operate. So Feed the Mass, how I met them at a community center called The Red on Salmon Street, which is a community hub, BIPOC, things like that. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they would cook food for the homeless, 500 meals. And they also would set up, so their kitchen would open up to the street about 4 feet off the ground, and it would have like an opening, like where a truck would back up to unload, basically. And so they also would have a table outside where it is, and they would set up a food pantry so homeless people could walk up and pick the things that they wanted out of the pantry. And we would just supply stuff to it because, again, choice is important in this circumstance. And more of these food banks and things like that are going into pantry style. So people aren't getting the same exact thing every single time they get aid. This way they're getting choice, like they're going to a store. So I was bringing them fish. This is at the very beginning of my time here. I was bringing them fish. So they would do 500 meals every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And they would get them out into the community, and they would split them up. One would be a protein, one would be a different protein, and another one would be vegan. And they would do all three, and they would have these kitchens and be full of volunteers, and they had chefs that were there, and they're still doing it today. They did 6,000 meals last week to the community, wow. And all of the meals go out to the community for free. I work with I bring them as much food as I can bring them. I don't care, produce, meat, whatever I can, because I source all the time. So. And anything I can get to them, I get to them because they're getting the stuff out to the community. Free Fridge, amazing. So the first time I met them was probably 3 months ago, and somebody said, "Well, yeah, you can take this stuff." So the first thing that they did is I have a big 26-foot refrigerator truck. So they wanted on a Sunday to pick up 50 boxes for. So each box is 32 pounds, as I mentioned, and they have dairy, protein, produce, fruit in them. So 50 boxes will feed 50 families. I said, fine. I said, you can come grab them right out of my truck. You don't even need to go to the warehouse. I'll have them in the back of the truck. So they came, picked it up, put it in a van, and then took them out to the community. The first time I delivered to one of the places, I pull up, and I had like 8 pallets, 9, so I figured 10,000 pounds of food. And what I see is I'm on a residential street, and this lady, her name is Britt, she's got her garage open, and all the dry goods go in her garage. And they have these refrigerators that have little shacks around them with doors with locks that they have with electric, of course. And they fill them with food so anybody in their community can come and open the refrigerator and take what they want. They've got like 25, 30 locations of that in this city. It is amazing. Amazing. So like just Sunday, I went and rated Amazon. I can go rate Amazon. So I get a lot. Amazon is really cool with the way they donate. We got a lot of stuff.
Oh, no way. You can just go to their like shipping center.
I go to the warehouse and I load up. They have these yellow bins, and everything in the yellow bin is donated. Everything from meat, produce, Lunchables, water, whatever they have, they put it in there. So I got 4 pallets of it. So I got basically 4,000 pounds of stuff. So I take it to Free Fridge at one of their hubs, and we get it all out there, and they have all these people coming from all the different Free Fridges, and this is one of the best takes that they've ever had because it's so diverse. And I was so happy. I filmed it. It's on the Walk for Change page, so everybody can go check on the Instagram. Walk for Change. The walk number 4 change. You'll see it. It's just great. All that stuff is great. And they go and they come and they load up their cars and they take it to their fridges. And then at the same time at the hub, they cook meals, pre-cooked meals. They put them in a container She gave me one. It was squash macaroni and cheese, off the chain. It was just ridiculous. And they make all these things. They put them in the refrigerator, and people can come and get a meal on their way to work or whatever they're doing. And there's like 25. So I put on my page, I put a map of all the locations. But I mean, the coolest, talk about community coming together. It's the coolest thing. I'm just
what city is that
in Portland.
Portland. And it's called Free Fridge.
Free Fridge.
Is this anywhere else in the country or only?
I have not. I don't know. I'll go find them if they are, because it is the coolest setup. And they got. I mean, it could. And each house or each location is set up differently, but they all have fridges, and they all have dry storage, and they set it up, and everybody in their little communities know that they can come get this stuff. And I'm just like happy to be a part of it. I'm like, here, whatever. It's one of those things like, okay. So every Thursday and Sunday, they get stuff from me. Where whatever I have, they can have it. And then they also get the USDA boxes, because I'm one of the distributors of the USDA boxes as a nonprofit who is requested and cleared and everything. So I distribute. This month I'll do 35,000 of them to the community. So.
Amazing. So before we wrap this up here, did you have any other organizations that you would like to promote? Any other?
Yeah, I would like to promote Willow Creek Springs, the manufacturer of the most amazing CBD products out there. I know I shared some of them with you, and I know you liked them. You told me.
I want to actually show them. You want to talk for a second? And
go ahead. Yeah, okay. So yes, absolutely. So Willow Creek Springs is manufactured in California. The creation of Joe and Liz Grumbine. And every product is natural. Every product you can eat. Every product is safe. We're talking about CBD itself, CBN, CBG. We're talking about different products that are made for different things. For example, they have a sleep syrup with nano CBD that also has melatonin. For example, they have she's going to get some stuff, but even here I have what's called an immune boost. And it has vitamin C and colloidal silver, as well as nano CBD in it. But the products are amazing, and they work. That's the bottom line. The products are amazing, they work. And the main reason why I bring it up here too is because Willow Creek Springs. I'm a distributor for Willow Creek Springs. I've been for a long time, and the nonprofit work that they do. There you go. The sunscreen. There you go. So the nonprofit work that they do is amazing. So, for example, I give out CBD products to all the volunteers. That's a fireball right there, and that is one. Let's just say that has the same impact to you as a Red Bull was or a cup of coffee, except it won't hurt you. It doesn't have bad side effects. If you want to quit tobacco, and the ingredients is what it's all about.
Yeah, what I love about these is all the herbs that are in them. It's not just CBD, but it has all these amazing herbs in them. I was a vitamin specialist at a organic store for a while, and so I'm really into taking herbal supplements, and I was really amazed by the way these were put together. I don't have it right now, but I love how they're like quit tobacco, or one was like quit opiates,
right.
The quit opiates one actually like really helps me go to sleep very easily. I really like that one a lot.
Fantastic. Yeah. There's great ingredients, and the thing is that they give to the community. The public benefit model is relevant. That's stuff right there. I use it all. I mean, I'm out there beating myself up every day, and I put that stuff on, and the muscle pain goes right away all the time. The thing about it is the products work. The products work. That's the key. The products work, and I use them all the time. I mean, I have right here every day that these three things go in my body. This is the Easy Queasy, and this is the Immune Boost, and this is the throat spray, and all of them have different products. And I every single day after I get out of the shower, I take a shot of each one, knowing that it's going to help my immune system, and it's CBD. It's feeding my body. It's like drinking orange juice.
Oh, someone here wants to know what the website is.
We do for Willow Creek Springs is willowcreeksprings.com to get information. They do not sell to the public. If you want to get products, you can go to lucidwellness.life. Or you could go to wedobetterrelief.org. Actually, the products will be up tomorrow. I haven't been doing that way. I only wholesale to the public. So, but because everybody wants, and we're giving it out, and because I want to have a special Apollo code, so I decided to put up products on the website. So they'll be up this week. WeDoBetterRelief.org. But Lucid Wellness on Life, you can find products there. That's a retail spot. But if you want to look at the products at the direct manufacturer, it's WillowCreekSprings.com. Again, they don't sell to the public, but you can link up. You can say where you got the information from. I can certainly help you. You can contact me at info@WeDoBetterRelief.org. You can contact Apollo as well. So she's an advocate now for the product because here.
Like you said, just hold tight, and I will have the code for you guys ready to go probably by the next show or later next week.
Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate you having me on. I love you, and you're great to the community, and your work is phenomenal. And I have congratulated you in a message, but not in a conversation like this. But I was really so happy for you with the movie. That's great, and your career is going the way you want it. That's what matters. It's going the way you want it. So
thank you. I really appreciate it, and it was so great to have you on here. And it's really amazing to see someone who's really doing so much to bring about change and give back to the community. So I really appreciate all the work you're doing, and it was fun to have you on here.
I appreciate it, definitely. Anytime. Stay well, be cool as usual, and I'll see you around.
All right, let's talk soon. Oh, and before I get off here, again, please go to shamanspears.com, check out my art because it helps me fund this show, and I have a lot of major plans in the future for what I'm trying to do with this, and need to get some more equipment for my studio. So I got these Moldavite key necklaces, dagger necklaces, and pyramids, organite pyramids. And also I encourage, kind of in honor of tonight's show, I encourage everyone to go donate to disclosurefest.org because we are doing a lot to give back to the homeless in this community here in LA. So would be much appreciated. So thanks for joining us tonight, everyone, and may the 4th be with you. Bye, Bobby. Good talking.